Hi, everybody. Welcome to Next in Creator Media. I'm Mike Shields. I'm here with Sol Betesh. He's the co-founder and CEO at Fallen Media. Hey, Sol, thanks for being here.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Excited to talk to you. It's well-timed, our conversation. I have lots of stuff I want to ask you about, but it's probably good to just give folks a little bit about who you are, what's Fallen Media, how you got into this industry, what's your story?
Yeah, I'll give you the high level on us. We're probably the largest short form studio out there. We create really popular original series for all the short form swipeable platforms: TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. Our content does close to 1 billion views a year, and we're probably most well known for really popular New York City content, whether that's our man on the street content, some of our dating and relationships content, mainly focused around Gen Z. We've been doing this probably 4.5, 5 years now. Started the company with a 15-year-old kid who I met from a Taylor Lorenz article in the New York Times. He was very big in the
classic
meme
founder
business.
Story.
Yes, yeah. I always wanted a great origin story, and I feel like I checked that box. But we've been really early in this whole sort of social media platforms being more media than social over the past couple of years, and really focused on building the Warner Brothers or the Paramounts of, if you build that today on the platforms that people use, starting with short form. I think that's sort of our focus.
I want to ask you about some of those projects, but why? I guess the obvious question is, why a short form specific studio? Theoretically, a digital video studio or just a bigger studio could do this. It's probably not, but is it such a specialty that you need to focus this way?
Yeah, great question. The short answer to that is yes. And I think you see that with, a lot of the traditional media companies putting some of their content on short form. A lot of brands that we speak to still haven't cracked short form. I think the same way you tell a specific story on TV, and that story is structured in the 30 minutes to an hour, right, and told a certain way. Even YouTube content, right? That's told in a certain way. And
there are
set
some
up in
conventions that have emerged, right?
That hits the algorithm. Making a successful 90-second episode, 60 to 90 second episode that lives on a platform like TikTok, and took the story told in a way that captures your attention, that gets you to watch throughout, that gets you to follow and like and comment and sort of get involved. That is a way to tell that story is something that we labor over on a day-to-day basis. That is not a
recut kind of thing.
No. We were one of the first to be like, we're going to make content made for these platforms first. It's not cut from an hour episode. It's literally beginning, middle, end in 90 seconds.
Okay. So you talked about being around for 4 or 5 years. You hinted at some of the dating projects in New York City stuff. Give us a couple of, take us through your hits and where they came from and like what you've learned.
Yeah. So I think our first original series hit is our show What's Poppin' with Davis, which I think was really the first very, very popular man on the street series for short form. I'm not going to say we invented Man on the Street. Billy Eichner did it. I think Letterman did it back in the 90s. But we sort of said, okay, how do we bring this format to Gen Z on a platform like TikTok? How do we make a show for TikTok where we're going to put out new episodes on a day-to-day basis in a way that I think most creators, they were creating content on their phones, they were doing it on their own schedule. It's like, how do we create this thing where it's sort of ongoing, always getting better with a team around it, and an amazing host? And we found Davis Burleson, who at the time had moved to New York to make it big. He was I would say he was a small to mid-sized creator. He got 200,000 followers on his personal TikTok. He was doing impressions, day in the life content. And we approached him. And of course, we didn't know what we were doing at the time. It was our first show. We approached him and said, hey, we have this great idea for this really young, vibrant man on the street show. We're going to call it What's Poppin'. New York City is sort of slowly coming out of heavy COVID. Right. People are moving out of the city, but we're betting that New York City is going to be hotter than ever. And I think people want that microphone and that voice. And he was down and interested, and he was moving back to Houston because he wasn't checking off the box that he wanted to. He wanted to be Andy Cohen and Ryan Seacrest, and which I asked him what he wanted to do.
He was
on
the verge
years.
of like, this might not be working out here.
Yeah, he was done. He was moving back, and we gave him, we sort of worked on this opportunity together, and he stayed in New York, and we filmed. And the first couple of weeks, no views at all, and we kept adjusting and fixing and really doubling down on the content. And finally got our first viral video, and the story goes the same way all these creators sort of blow up, is you have that first big hit, and the rest is history. Now you can't walk down the street without people wanting to take pictures with them.
And how were you? What was your monetization plan? Or it's probably evolved over time, but what was was there a business model that you had figured out right away, or not necessarily?
The truth is, we said no. I mean, we thought maybe we'd get some brand opportunities here and there. We didn't understand the extent of what we were building, and we thought we'd make a couple of bucks here or there on it. We thought maybe we'd set up the Patreon, and at the time that was the thing, and get people to pay $10 a month for exclusive content.
If you're focused on TikTok, you don't have that like AdSense money kicking in right off the bat.
Correct. And we did the show, I think 2 or 3 months in, we got our first deal from G Fuel. They paid us $2,500 a video. It was 3 videos, and we were like jumping for joy.
Sure.
Like, wow, it's unbelievable.
The guy got to stay in New York.
Right. But that was the first sort of opening that was like, okay, brands are interested, and they reached out to us. And then over the next 6 months, it was like the doors flew open. Of course, we were riding it. It wasn't until later where we sort of got an understanding of the business model. But brands like Adidas and Expedia and Shopify in our inbox, dying to do videos on this show that we built from scratch. And I think what we realized and how we build our shows now, and the whole really the business model that we're focused on in the moment is, we really built this sort of, I would say, different product for brands to advertise on social. So what I mean by that is most brands, the way they advertise on social right now, if you want to advertise on TikTok or Instagram, you're working with, maybe a large set of influencers who record a lot of content on their phones.
Or you're just running a bunch of pre-rolls and hopefully it works out. Yeah.
And we sort of, carved out another area where we're saying, you can really attach yourself as a brand to really up and coming strong IP produced really well, where we think it's sort of a higher level end product. And because we produce this stuff all day, we can really push the envelope on the types of content that we make.
It's yours. You control it.
Exactly. For example, just to give you a sense of like the level of brand partnerships that we do and how far we like to push on our dating show, Street Hearts, where we put 2 people on a blind date in New York City on the sidewalk. We partnered with Westin, who had released a new mattress. I think it was called their Heavenly Bed. And they wanted to do something really creative. And they said to us, let's figure out something really big. And we basically built a king size bed and put it in Central Park.
Okay.
And the Westin corporate came, of course, to make the bed look nice.
Hopefully this is not like a daily today.
Well, it's actually, it was nice.
It's very good. It's cold in New York.
It was actually nice out. It was during the summer, but we built out this giant king size bed, and we did a couple of dates outside in Central Park, called it Sheet Hearts, and the content just did a couple million views organic, which was amazing.
And again, so there's, like you said, there's been dating shows for a long time, all kinds of formats, but you were, so in one way it's maybe a little retro, but then you're doing it in a 90-second style, and it's aimed for this generation. What was like, how did you do that? That had to be challenging
to create the show.
Yeah. Like like how do you make sure that is viable in that tight of a format?
Well, we start with the concept, and the concept was, what if you put 2 people on a blind date in New York City outdoors, and see if you can get them to agree to go on a second date. That was the concept. That's how we start with everything. And I always tell people there's 1,000 ways to make that show. You can make that concept can be done 1,000 different ways. And so we spend probably a month in development on a concept that we're really excited about, really testing different ways to tell that story. Is it 60 seconds? Is it 90 seconds? What does the intro look like? What does the outro look like? How do you keep their attention? What kind are we casting it? Are we finding really random people on the street?
Right.
Some of the things that we think about. So until we get something that we're really excited about, and then we'll post it. And even if that doesn't hit right off the bat, we're still sort of, tightening the screws on the show for the next couple of weeks. And the best part about these platforms, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, specifically the short form platforms, is once you get something that works, right away, the feedback is right there. You'll get the views, you'll get the comments, you'll get the engagement, and then you ride that. Then you have it.
Help me. This is probably either a dated or maybe generalization of how my perception is that the TikTok algorithm it feels erratic or random. or you hear creators say, well, I have X amount of subscribers on YouTube. I kind of know what my views are going to be each week. TikTok, I don't know. And that might be dated. So I guess, is that accurate? And how do you make a show that with that nature of that algorithm, you don't control? Or
I think it's no different than YouTube, to be honest with you. I mean, listen, there are days, but I guess the same on YouTube. There's days where you post something and you think it's going to do consistent with the rest of the
article, and no one reads it.
Right. And there are days when it's like it just doesn't hit. That happens on every internet platform out there
for a number of reasons. At that moment,
exactly. But when we went into this business, we said one of our sort of advantages is we're going to build a team of like the most creative people in this business that are going to do the work to make sure that we're getting consistent views. So and it's hard as an individual creator for sure, because it's hard. You're alone. You're trying to think of creative content to put out on a day-to-day basis that's going to keep your audience interested. And those that have done it individually, it's an amazing feat. For us, we're as a team sitting and doing that all day. So we say we're going to keep our stuff consistent. That's our business. And so if you say you need to do it, we're going to do it, especially when you have a great team.
So you and I met at a conference a couple months ago. We talked about this, because I'm making you repeat yourself, but
no worries.
There is an idea, I think, over the years, and I'm making sweeping generalizations, whether you want slates of shows on platforms like YouTube and TikTok, whether that makes any sense, whether it's always going to be creator driven and a bit like inconsistent and putting out content when it comes out, or whether you want to have like series and predictability. It sounds like you've found that the model of seasons and maybe scripted, maybe not scripted, but predictable shows make sense.
I think consistency, in entertainment, you want to push the envelope always, but there's a level of consistency in entertainment in general that you need to stick to. And so I do think that the internet, specifically YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all of these platforms are real entertainment platforms. And that comes with consistent formats, great, leading talent, sort of the basics that have been in the entertainment business for 100 years plus. So bringing that maturity to these platforms in a way where you're telling the story that the younger generation sort of wants to hear and is used to. You're not making a scripted drama for YouTube. You're just not going to do that.
Yeah.
But in terms of consistent format, great talent, and it's making sure that you're continuing to entertain your audience, that stuff goes without saying, even though we're on these quote unquote newer, more modern platforms.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's true with marketer. It was a question whether people, the consumers wanted that, but marketers always they like consistency and predictability, and something you're going to be around. I want to ask you generally. I'm going to go back to how you work with brands, but just broadly, I'm asking everybody this, and it's probably not a fair question, but how are brands doing in the creator universe overall, in your opinion? Is it all over the place? Are they investing enough? Is it slow going? Is it still like kind of bucketed in a weird way?
I think brands know that they need to spend in influencer and in creator. Like, they know it. I think when they get to it, in some cases, they're still learning right and wrong in this arena. Now, it's not that complicated. What I mean by that is, if you look at TV commercials now, they're boring, but there is such thing as entertaining TV commercials, right? They've been on before. If you think about the Super Bowl, it's
the progressive parents things are very like there's some terrible stuff, but there's some great ones.
Right. And I think brands are approaching creator content with this mindset of, we need to do extra. We need to give extra briefs. We need to give extra information. We need to work with 1,000 different influencers. And I think it's indicative of the time that they're still figuring it out. And I think it's actually more simple than that. Work with the couple of forget about you being the head of marketing at a giant conglomerate. When you pull this video up on your phone, do you smile or not? Do you like this creator?
As a person.
Do you not?
Yeah.
As a person, do you enjoy it? Forget about the 50,000 bullet point list of your brand.
You don't need to focus group everything, right?
Just look at it as a human and say, is this something I want to be a part of? Is this something that I think we come up with something creative for our brand? Pick 5 to 10 creators that do really well, that make great content, and give them the keys and let them roll. And I think brands are slowly getting there. They're slowly giving up that control and saying, hey, you guys know better than us. But it's not there yet. It's really very, very early days still. As much as we talk about creator marketing, maybe we've been talking about it for 10 years. It's still
it feels like you're having the same conversation. And I'm going to guess if it's a newer challenger brand, they're more on board with this than, I don't know, Johnson Johnson or something like that.
No question.
So when you mentioned, you're putting out shows, you're new, you start getting calls. Now you've been at this for a while. Is there a consistent way that brands come to you? Do you have you figured that out? Is it still somebody finds you and they give you a call? Do you go meet with all the agencies? What does it look like right now for you?
Yeah. I mean, we get, it's amazing. We get a ton of inbound. Of course we have an amazing sales team, but I think the inbound speaks to the popularity of our shows. And what I mean by that is I tell our team that our audience, our fans, are not just the viewers, the Gen Z viewers that we're trying to hit. They're also our customers, like the Gen Z and millennial, team members at these large brands are watching our content.
Yeah, they're your advocates, right? They're like
exactly. And so we'll get it. We wake up and get an email from a large Fortune 100 brand, and that's amazing. It also speaks to I think the changing media landscape. Of course, that goes without saying it. We know that. But the way brands have worked with us, but are now increasingly changing, is like they would call us up and be like, hey, we got a new campaign for X new release. Let's do one video on X show.
Right.
And
just add you to the list of other things they're doing.
Exactly. Here we have we're going after 100 different really popular creators. You're on that list. We'd love to work with you. Okay. But what happens is brands look at influencer spending, like I said, as sort of, okay, we're trying a lot of different things. And I think they don't take enough of a bet. And so what we've been able to do over the past couple of months, I think the tide has really changed, is say to a brand, hey, why don't we work together over a longer period of time? And if you like the show, and you like what we did, let's build out a custom segment like that Westin beds campaign that we did.
Right.
That was a multi-part segment, and people couldn't wait to watch it.
Right.
So why don't we work together like that, the same way you would take out a large sponsorship deal on an NBA team? Why don't you do the same with us? And that way, we're able to take larger created bets. We can sort of focus on how do we get the most views and get people actually excited to watch these branded videos. That's one way. And the other way is we have a network of really popular content that we create. We're sort of building that modern day MTV. And so when we work with brands, specifically with, for example, we did an overall deal with Prime Video this last year where they have a lot of new releases. We've got a lot of content. Every new release hits a different demo, and our shows hit some different demos. Get the opportunity to plug into different shows at different times, the same way they would work with NBC, for example.
And how much are they? This question comes up a lot. It's more so, I think, when you're talking about it comes up a lot with YouTube. How do I compare this to my other TV? But that's unique to them. Do you get a lot of pressure on? Are they fine with, hey, these are numbers we got from TikTok, let's say, and that's how the show did? Do they want you to have all this other research or make it fit their data they're using?
Every brand, and that's why I say they're still figuring it out. Every brand is different. Every brand wants something different. What I mean by that is some brands come to us, they want views. Every brand wants views, but some brands are more focused on what were the views. The brands that are more focused on the views actually allow us to do our thing because they understand that that's what they need to do to get the views.
Right.
Some brands are looking at the engagement. They're looking at the comments. They want to see how excited people were about the product that you're making. And honestly, some brands just love not patting ourselves on the back, but this is with many creators, I think. They just love the content that you're making and they want to be a part of it.
Yeah, the association.
Be a part of it.
Which was they loved being on American Idol because it was hot at one point. Like they just loved it. Yeah, brands love that stuff.
Exactly, and that gives us the opportunity again to sort of say, "Hey, was great working together. Let's figure out how to get to a larger sort of commitment. Not from just a monetary perspective, but we want to make ads that are groundbreaking, that people love to watch on these platforms. And we want the opportunity to show that we can do that. I would say even over the past 6 months, brands have slowly started to get, they're like, oh, we want to be on that show. 4 years ago, if I said TikTok show or Instagram Reels show, they'd be like, I don't really understand what is that?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Are they on you to prove that you sold stuff for them? It doesn't seem like the nature of this kind of viewership.
No, but I think the truth is that advertising is a weird thing because, listen, if you're doing Google AdWords, I think it's very easy to see if you're able to convert.
Amazon ads, whatever. Yeah,
for sure. I think creator content, it's definitely harder to see a level of conversion, but it's a brand awareness play.
Yeah. Okay. Obvious elephant in the room question. You have built your company around short form. You have a lot of built projects for TikTok. What are you doing right now? Is it weird? Is it uncertain? Do you just have to keep running until things change? Like what's the state of affairs?
Yeah. I think the Supreme Court is expected to come out. I'm just going to say any minute now. About their decision. But I mean, for us, look, TikTok invented the short form swipeable format as an entertainment format. They did invent that. But you have Instagram Reels now. You've got YouTube Shorts. We have a really strong audience specifically on Instagram Reels. And so, listen, I'd love for it to stay. I'd love for some deal to get done where, an American company can come in and buy a majority.
It's not like it's a bad product.
It's a great product. If Trump can figure out how to negotiate that one, I'm all for it, obviously. I think that for us, we're focused on making great content. And whatever platforms that those live on, we're a studio. So wherever we can put our stuff, where it gets the views, we're in. And I think Instagram is a great example of that. I will say also, I think a lot of people you have 170 million users in America that use TikTok. They're going to move over to Instagram. And then from a brand perspective, from advertising dollars, a lot of brands have sort of allocated their budgets to TikTok for the year. For us, I actually think it's an opportunity if they're sitting and deciding
some money might free up.
If they need to, where they need to put that money. Right. And for us, we've got reliable IP, consistent views, really strong standout talent. I think we're a pretty reliable, forward-thinking place to sort of put that money. So, I mean, we'll see. That's how I'm thinking very positive, but that's how I'm thinking about it.
But are most of your shows on every short form platform?
Yes.
And that's just, so you're covered to an extent.
For sure. I mean, there aren't that many other ones. It's really Instagram Reels, I think, is going to get a lion's share of that money, that brand money if TikTok goes away. I think YouTube Shorts may get a little bit of it. YouTube Shorts as a product, I think, is still it's still maturing, I want to say.
Interesting.
And then that's it. There really isn't another.
I was going to say, is there
I've
seen stories about some up and comers. I don't know enough to know.
Snap Spotlight is one, but I've used it and I think it still needs a little bit of work. There's this new app called Red Note, which is I think really just trolling this idea that America's trying to take a Chinese app down, but in this app, literally, it's barely in English. The whole thing is in Mandarin. So people are saying it's going to be the next big thing. I'll eat my hat if that happens.
Right. But do you desire? You mentioned YouTube Shorts is still a maturing product, because I was wondering, some of these formats you could theoretically lend themselves to TV. Do you see that ever? Do you want to? I don't know how many people watch TikTok on TV. There you can, but Shorts, it seems to have some traction there.
Yeah, that's sort of if you look at the roadmap for us, it starts with a short form series, successful short form series. That is I would say, a lower cost way to get a show off the ground. And if that's successful and we can start to build a strong fan base, we look at the next step for us is what's the longer form. We're not just going to take our shows and just stretch them out into long. A 5 minute. I wouldn't do that. Like if we were going to do a YouTube series, what's a really standout, kick-ass format that we can make for YouTube that will really jump off the page, jump off the algorithm in a big way off the bat. And that's how you sort of start to get that going. And if that's successful, sit down and talk to sort of TV studios. And I mean, we've spoken to a lot of the cable, sort of traditional cable companies, and trying to figure out a way to bridge the gap between cable, which brings in, which puts off a ton of cash and makes a ton of money, but is on the decline, and sort of creator original content made for these platforms that get massive viewership but don't make nearly the same amount of money that cable does. How do you bridge that gap? And that's something that we're trying to figure out with some potential partners. So the whole industry is really exciting. We're in the second inning, maybe the first.
Yeah. It's hard to, you have to remind yourself how, just this whole short form thing is only a few years old. And
yes,
it's pretty wild how people's consumption habits have shifted so rapidly, and
will continue.
Yeah. But there's probably something that we don't even understand that's coming around that will
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So awesome conversation. Let's do this again sometime, but thanks so much for your insights here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Mike.